The familiar rustle of the bag. Bright colors promised sugary bliss. Haribo Gummy Bears, a childhood favorite. A wave of nostalgia washed over me.
He popped one in his mouth, savoring the sweet, fruity flavor. A moment of pure, childlike joy. Then it hit him.
A sharp, searing pain shot through my teeth. I winced, dropping the gummy bear into my palm. Something wasn't right.
There, nestled within the translucent red gelatin, was a tiny speck, pulsating, alive. Panic swelled in his chest.
I dumped the bag on the table, my heart pounding. Every single gummy bear pulsed with that same horrifying life. They weren't candy. They were something else. Something monstrous.
Their colors, once inviting, now mocked him with their sickly sweetness. His stomach churned. This couldn't be real. Tiny limbs, grotesque and slick, erupted from the gummy bears. Claws tore through gelatinous flesh. They writhed, hungry, their movements fueled by a terrifying sentience. These once innocent, colorful candies had transformed into something nightmarish, something that defied the very laws of nature. Their eyes, now glowing with a malevolent light, scanned their surroundings with a predatory gaze. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the sound of their gelatinous bodies squelching against the surface.
Screams caught in my throat. I scrambled back, knocking over the chair in my haste. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum, each beat echoing the terror that gripped my soul. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in as if to trap me with these monstrous creations. My hands shook uncontrollably as I tried to push away, my mind racing with thoughts of escape. But where could I go? How could I outrun these abominations? They were escaping their sugary prisons. The molds that once held them captive now lay shattered, pieces of plastic scattered across the floor. Each gummy bear moved with a purpose, their tiny limbs propelling them forward with an unsettling grace. It was as if they had been waiting for this moment, biding their time until they could break free and unleash their fury upon the world. The sight was both mesmerizing and horrifying, a twisted dance of freedom and destruction.
Free at last. Their voices, though small, carried a weight of centuries-old malice. Each word dripped with venom, a promise of the chaos they intended to bring. Their expressions, once cute and harmless, were now twisted into grotesque masks of rage and hunger. They reveled in their newfound freedom, their eyes gleaming with a sinister joy. The darkness around them seemed to pulse with their energy, a living, breathing entity that fed off their malevolence.
Time to feast. The words sent a chill down my spine. The gummy bears moved towards a dark banquet table, their eyes fixed on the feast that awaited them. The table was laden with all manner of grotesque delicacies, each one more horrifying than the last. The air was thick with the scent of decay, a nauseating blend of sweetness and rot. The gummy bears licked their lips in anticipation, their claws clicking against the table as they prepared to indulge in their macabre meal.
"You can't run!" The words echoed in my mind, a cruel reminder of my helplessness. I turned and ran down a dark corridor, my feet pounding against the cold, hard floor. The walls seemed to close in around me, the shadows stretching out like grasping hands. My breath came in ragged gasps, each one a struggle against the suffocating fear that threatened to overwhelm me. But no matter how fast I ran, I could feel their presence behind me, relentless and unyielding.
Join us. The invitation was both seductive and terrifying. The gummy bears moved closer, their eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that burned into my soul. The room around me seemed to warp and twist, the flickering lights casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. I could feel their hunger, their desire to consume and corrupt. It was a pull that was almost impossible to resist, a dark allure that promised both pleasure and pain.
The nightmare had only just begun. The shadows loomed larger, their forms shifting and changing with each passing moment. The air was thick with a palpable sense of dread, a suffocating blanket of fear that wrapped around me like a vice. My eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of escape, but there was none to be found. The gummy bears closed in, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. This was only the beginning, a prelude to the horrors that awaited. The nightmare had only just begun, and there was no waking from it. Section 5. A Sea of Teeth. The title alone sent shivers down my spine, evoking images of an endless ocean filled with unseen terrors lurking just beneath the surface. It was a fitting metaphor for what was to come.
They swarmed, a tide of miniature horrors. These weren't just any ordinary insects. They were a grotesque amalgamation of nightmares, each one more terrifying than the last. Their movement was almost hypnotic, a relentless wave that seemed to have a mind of its own, driven by some unseen force. Their tiny teeth, needle-sharp, glistened in the dim light. Each set of jaws was a perfect instrument of destruction, designed to tear through flesh with ease. The way they moved, with a predatory grace, made it clear that they were not to be underestimated. The air crackled with a chorus of clicking mandibles. It was a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a cacophony that set my nerves on edge. Each click was a reminder of the danger that surrounded me, a constant, unrelenting threat.
My blood ran cold. This was a nightmare, a delirious, waking nightmare, the kind that you can't escape from, no matter how hard you try. Every shadow seemed to hide a new terror, every sound a new threat. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat a drum of impending doom, and I was trapped within it. There was no way out, no escape from the horrors that surrounded me. The walls seemed to close in, the air growing thicker with each passing moment. I could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down on me, suffocating me. My mind raced, searching for a way out, but there was none to be found. I was a prisoner in this sea of teeth, and there was no rescue in sight. Section 6. Devoured. The nightmare began innocuously enough with a single gummy bear, but soon they multiplied, their numbers growing exponentially until they were an unstoppable force.
They were on me, their tiny claws digging into my skin. It was surreal, these once harmless candies now transformed into vicious predators. I could feel each claw sharp and unyielding, tearing through my flesh as if it were paper, each bite a searing white pain. The sensation was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was as if my nerves were being set on fire, each bite sending shockwaves of agony through my body. I could see their tiny jaws working, their teeth glistening with my blood. I thrashed, desperate to break free from their relentless assault. My movements were frantic, driven by pure instinct and the primal urge to survive. But no matter how hard I fought, they clung to me, their grip unyielding. I could feel their weight, a suffocating blanket of gummy flesh.
But it was no use. They were too many, too hungry. Their eyes, once innocent and playful, now glowed with a malevolent hunger. They moved as one, a coordinated swarm driven by a singular purpose, to consume. I could hear their tiny growls, a symphony of terror that filled the air. Their numbers pressed against me, an unrelenting wave of gummy flesh and teeth. It was as if the very air was being squeezed out of my lungs, replaced by the sickly, sweet scent of candy. I could feel my strength waning, my vision blurring as the world around me faded into darkness. The last thing I saw was their gleeful faces, triumphant in their victory.
I could feel them tearing me apart, piece by tiny piece. The sweet, fruity scent of the gummy bears transformed into a sickeningly metallic tang. The smell of my own blood.
My vision blurred. The pain was unbearable, all-consuming, and then even the pain began to fade.
Through the haze of agony I saw them. Their tiny, grotesque faces, no longer cute and inviting, stared back at me with cold, predatory hunger.
They had won, and I was their prize.
The last thing I saw before the darkness claimed me was the image of those gummy bears, multiplying, spreading, consuming everything in their path.
The world, I realized with a shuddering finality, would never be the same.
They are everywhere now, hidden in plain sight, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
Beware the gummy bears. Their hunger is insatiable, and they will not be satisfied until everything is consumed, leaving nothing behind.